bizarre. It is erratic. It's volatile. And I think it indicates a mental state that we should all be questioning right now.
They haven't engaged in seditious behavior. That mess you just heard over there about not being intimidated? No, the intimidation came from them when they launched their stupid video that nobody asked for.
This is Today As It Happened. Good Friday evening to you. I'm Stephanie Liebergen here with your chronological look at the biggest events and stories from the day. From New York City, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's meeting with President Donald Trump, to Congress leaving Washington for Thanksgiving week without addressing healthcare subsidies. But first this morning, we took a look at the ongoing fallout from inflammatory remarks made this week by President Trump. A new controversy is swirling around the White House after President Trump accused 6 Democratic lawmakers of sedition on Thursday, saying the crime is, quote, punishable by death. The accusation came after the lawmakers, all military and intelligence veterans, posted a video urging service members to uphold the Constitution and defy illegal orders. Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed joining us live from our D.C. newsroom to dig into this a little bit more. So, Nate, the president really starting a wildfire with his response to this ad. What reaction have we seen kind of on all sides of this story?
Well, look, President Trump directly responding on Truth Social, Stephanie, to this public service announcement, effectively, from these Democratic lawmakers, telling both members of the intelligence community and members of the military to refuse orders from their superiors if they believe that they are either illegal or run counter to the Constitution. But to be clear, and you'll hear this yourself, in this public service announcement, they don't specifically name any orders that President Trump or the White House has given that they view to be illegal. Rather, they appear to be making a general statement. Take a listen.
Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
Now, President Trump responding quite strongly to this on Truth Social, specifically calling out these lawmakers for what he is calling seditious acts, saying they should be tried for sedition, even reposting a Truth Social user suggesting that these Democratic lawmakers should be hung. Democrats on Capitol Hill reacting extremely strongly, stating that they believe this will just raise the number of threats all across the country for Democrats. And again, the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer even even telling us yesterday on Capitol Hill that he has asked Capitol Police and the Sergeant at Arms to step up security for members of Congress in light of these attacks. I caught up with Senator Chris Murphy, the Democrat from Connecticut, a frequent critic of President Donald Trump. He told me he's worried for his own children's lives. Take a listen.
This puts all of our lives in jeopardy, right? What are we all doing right now? Democrats in the Congress are on the phone with their chiefs of staff, beefing up our security for this weekend and next week. He just told his supporters that we should be hung. We should be hung. I mean, this isn't like a normal political story. This is perhaps the most reckless, irresponsible thing that he has done all Congress.
And Senator Alyssa Slotkin, one of the members you saw in that video, she's a former CIA intelligence officer. She told other outlets last night that even her office has seen an increase in the number of threats since President Trump made those comments and reposted those comments on Truth Social. Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, saying that President Trump was not calling for death for those individual members of Congress. At the same time, we're hearing from Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill who want the president to tone down the political rhetoric. Again, a lot of questions about whether the number of threats could rise as a result of those comments from the commander-in-chief.
Even with the press secretary in a way trying to walk back the comments from President Trump, it's presumably the ones that are on Truth Social that are still up and available for the public to see. That's going to probably get more eyeballs viewing it than the comments from Caroline Leavitt. Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed, thank you very much. And another headline we're keeping our eyes on for you this morning. Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell is running for California governor. Made his announcement on Thursday night on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Now, he plans to run on an anti-Trump platform, which might play well in the Democratic state of California. He joins a crowded field of Democratic candidates, though. They're all vying to replace the term-limited Governor Gavin Newsom. No clear frontrunner has emerged in that race just yet. And the TSA is proposing an $18 fee for travelers without a real ID who want to fly. Under the new rule, passengers could pay the non-refundable fee and then use a biometric kiosk to access TSA checkpoints for 10 days. The agency says the fee covers the new identity verification technology, but there's no word on when the rule might take effect. And hundreds of airport workers who toughed it out during the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, well, they're going to be rewarded for their efforts. 776 air traffic controllers and technicians will each get a $10,000 bonus. The U.S. Department of Transportation and Federal Aviation Administration made the announcement on Thursday. The money is going to employees that had a perfect attendance record during the government shutdown. Recipients will be notified next week during Thanksgiving week, and they should get their bonus no later than December 9th. In Ukraine, President Zelensky and his wife Olena lit a candle to mark the Ukrainian Day of Dignity and Freedom. Now, aside from the ongoing war with Russia, Zelensky is also facing a growing political controversy within his government, and that stems from a $100 million corruption kickback scandal. Zelensky has dismissed 2 top officials and sanctioned others, but some are calling for him to fire his powerful chief of staff to help restore the public's trust. Coming up on Today As It Happened.
That sounds like a scene out of Scarface. So that's when I asked to see the body cam footage.
And did they show you the body camera footage?
They did not.
A federal judge ordered the Trump administration to end its months-long deployment of National Guard troops in the nation's capital. The U.S. district judge said President Trump's military takeover in D.C. illegally intrudes on local officials' authority to direct law enforcement. But she did put her order on hold for 21 days, expecting an appeal. The judge found that while the president does have the authority to protect federal property, he cannot unilaterally deploy the D.C. National Guard to help with crime control. The U.S. Coast Guard once again considers swastikas and nooses to be hate symbols. That is according to a memo released Thursday. The move comes shortly after the Washington Post reported the Coast Guard approved a policy that reclassified those images as potentially divisive. The change was set to go into effect in December, but that plan quickly drew scrutiny from lawmakers. And Scripps News has won a nearly 2-year court fight for body camera footage that shows what transpired before police shot and killed a teenage girl in Lakewood, Colorado in 2023. The 17-year-old girl was an armed robbery suspect accused of holding up a postal worker with a handgun. Senior National Investigative Correspondent Lori Jane Gliha is here with a new special report, joining us now to explain why this fight is setting a new legal precedent. Lori Jane?
Hi, Stephanie. Yeah, whenever a citizen is killed by police, there are always questions from the public about whether everything happened appropriately and whether policies may need to change. Some states have laws that require police to release body camera footage quickly so the public can see it and learn from it themselves. But in this case, despite a law in Colorado requiring the footage to be released, the police agency would not hand over the records, so Scripps News filed a lawsuit. We won that lawsuit and an appeal, setting a precedent for future access to videos like these. Here's an excerpt from our report.
Jeffcom 911.
The postman was out in front of my home, and 2 girls just robbed him at gunpoint. So they're armed. Oh my God, they're in his truck.
They're in the truck?
They're in his truck.
A postal worker in Lakewood, Colorado has just been approached by 2 teen girls, one flashing a gun, demanding his keys before running off.
Occurs in robbery at gunpoint, South Oak Street.
Hey, let me see your hands! Let me see your hands!
The postal worker tells an officer the suspects were just little girls.
Female, black, hoodie, jeans,
headed towards Dakota.
When you say young, are you talking teens, 20s?
Early teen.
Early teens?
Okay, I'm Jesus Christ, a little kid.
One of the girls, 17-year-old Mariana Martinez. She's the one who had the gun. Investigators say her 13-year-old sister tagged along.
I looked in the mirror and I saw the second female, and that's when she's pulled out the pistol like that.
On this day, the decision to bring a gun.
Shots fired by police! Shots fired by police!
Would cost Mariana her life. Police would fire more than 20 bullets, hitting her at least 10 times. But the story does not end there. It also involves a wounded officer, a law enforcement agency refusing to hand over police video, and a court battle for that body camera footage.
She's got a handgun pointed at us. We got 3 officers that fired shots. She's hit multiple times.
Thank you. Okay. This one caught my attention because the story that the police told the first day to the press changed on the second day.
That's Anita Springsteen. She is a civil rights attorney, but she was also a city councilor for Lakewood, Colorado when the shooting happened. And in 2023, she contacted me at Scripps News concerned about what went down. She wanted our help finding out what happened. And she had a lot of questions, especially given how police initially portrayed the incident.
In the beginning, they said that when they caught up with her, that she shot at them.
The police did say that.
My name is John Romero, Johnromero. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Lakewood Police Department.
The day of the shooting in March 2023, a police spokesperson repeated multiple times on camera that the suspect, a teen girl, had fired her weapon at police and that an officer had also been shot.
The suspect was armed and began firing at our agents. The suspect began firing at agents immediately. Our agents returned fire. The suspect was shot and one of our agents was shot. Then again, one of our agents was hit by the suspect during the shooting.
But later that day, the police agency changed course, issuing a new statement saying the girl had only pointed her gun at officers. We later learned she never fired it.
Right away, I was thinking, how did we get the story that wrong from the start? So it made me suspicious. I wanted to know more information. And a couple of people in the community had reached out to me, my constituents, asking what was going on, what had happened. And the city just wouldn't give us information.
We know others initially wanted answers too, since an attorney drafted this letter on behalf of the teen and her estate, complaining that the police department had potentially acted with gross negligence. It also referenced that officers fired close to 30 shots.
And that's when I became even more concerned, because to me this was like, she's 17 years old. That sounds like a scene out of Scarface. So that's when I asked to see the body cam footage.
And did they show you the body camera footage?
They did not.
A little over 5 months after the shooting, a special critical incident review team, working under the authority of the district attorney, reviewed the case, and the district attorney found the shooting to be justified, saying a reasonable person would believe it was necessary for the officers to defend themselves with deadly physical force. The district attorney did not file criminal charges, but that team didn't release the video either. We filed a formal request with the police department, thinking it would be a simple ask. Colorado has a law that requires a police agency to release body-worn camera footage within 21 days of a request if someone has filed a complaint of misconduct, like the letter sent to Lakewood by the teen's estate. Getting access to such video often helps the public get clarity on high-profile incidents, sometimes totally affirming an officer's actions, and other times raising questions about the level of force. This is the actual form I filled out, requesting the police report, video, photos, and body-worn camera footage. And this is the denial I received from a Lakewood city attorney a little over a week later. Police did eventually release some of the records I requested about the incident, like photos, reports, and police drone video showing the scene. But they still refused to release the body camera footage from the officers who fired the deadly shots.
And an appeals court ruling in our favor allowed us to get that footage and set a precedent in Colorado after it was one of the first challenges to a state law requiring the release of body camera video passed in the aftermath, Stephanie, of the murder of George Floyd.
Laura Jane, why did you go after this story in the first place?
Well, a city councilwoman, the one you saw in that clip there, brought it to my attention. She had questions about what happened. And from experience, we have seen some cases sometimes play out differently than what we've been told. So we tried to get to the bottom of it on behalf of the public, and it took a lot longer than we thought.
You mentioned getting multiple denial letters from the police department. Did they give you any reason for not releasing the footage?
Yes, well, they said they wanted to protect the privacy rights of the teen girl, saying she was a minor. But our view was that these kinds of cases, especially when a juvenile is killed, those need extra scrutiny. And on top of that, Colorado does have this law that requires police to hand over footage within 21 days if someone has filed a complaint of potential misconduct. That provision is written into the Enhanced Law Enforcement Integrity Act, which went into effect years ago after the death of George Floyd, as I mentioned, and another controversial death in Colorado. So even though we knew the actions of police in this case were ruled to be completely justified, we still fought for that video because the law says the public has a right to see it too. Stephanie.
Scripps News senior national investigative correspondent Lori Jane Gliha, thank you for breaking down this story for us. We appreciate it. Up next on Today As It Happened.
Congress has left Washington until December without extending Affordable Care Act subsidies. Coming up, we'll look at efforts in Congress to lower the rising cost of health care.
Welcome back to Today As It Happened. Let's check back in on our daily briefing of today's top stories. Federal investigators released photos of an engine flying off the doomed UPS cargo plane that crashed 2 weeks ago in Kentucky, killing 14 people. The series of 6 photos shows the rear of the engine starting to detach before it flew up and over the wings as it was engulfed in flames.
When you look at the sequence of images that the NTSB has in their preliminary report, the first image shows the airplane basically under a normal condition. Engines are in their proper position. Airplane is rotated into a climb attitude. The subsequent frames show the engine starting to separate from the left side. That separation, the motor mount broke, and unfortunately the engine propelled itself over the top of the left wing, created a fireball.
The National Transportation Safety Board says there was evidence of cracks in the left wing's engine mount, but the NTSB says the plane was not due for a detailed inspection of those key engine parts, which indeed had fractures. Senior citizens are bracing for steep increases in their health insurance premiums next year. Medicare Part B premiums are going up nearly 10%, the largest increase in 4 years. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services says the standard monthly premium will be $202.90, nearly $18 more than this year. Medicare Part B covers things like doctor's visits, outpatient hospital services, and medical equipment and drugs. About 69 million Americans are enrolled in Medicare, which also covers people with disabilities. Today, the House of Representatives is slated to leave town until December without taking any action on the cost of health care. Yesterday, the Senate left D.C. also without taking a vote on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies, which are currently due to expire at the end of the year. Now, that vote in the Senate is expected to happen by mid-December, but there's no guarantees it would pass. There's no guarantee the House will take it up. And there's no guarantee that President Trump would sign it. Congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed explains.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill have left Washington for the Thanksgiving holiday without taking any action to fix the rising cost of health care or address expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies. When senators return in December, they're expected to take a vote during the first half of the month on extending those subsidies. But it's not clear that vote will succeed. Over in the House of Representatives, there's no guarantee a vote will take place to extend the credits at all, as even some moderate Republicans have called for changes to the law to earn their support for an extension.
I wouldn't sign it just a plain extension. They're going to have to. Hakeem Jeffries can't do my way or the highway on this thing. This thing got passed without a single Republican vote to begin with.
As the expiration of the subsidies inches closer, along with the 2026 midterm elections, some Republicans are sounding the alarm on Capitol Hill. Republican Congressman Byron Donalds is running for governor of Florida next year with President Trump's endorsement.
I think Republicans need to have a health care strategy and not just say that Obamacare is broken, although it's very broken, and that's what's causing some of the affordability crisis hurting the American people, are Democrat policies like health care policies. So we have some room to work on that as well.
Recent polls showing Democrats may enjoy a significant advantage in next year's elections. According to an NPR PBS Marist poll earlier this week, Democrats are favored on the generic ballot by 14 points among registered voters, their best numbers in 3 years. 57% of the respondents to that poll saying they believe that lowering prices should be the Trump administration's top priority ahead of next year. Another boost this week for the minority party, a federal court's decision to toss out new congressional maps in Texas. Though the ruling is pending an appeal from the U.S. Supreme Court, Democrats' moves in California to pad their margins, plus positive polling, means they could take control of the House of Representatives next year.
Are Democrats nationally feeling pretty good about taking back the House of Representatives?
I think what you're seeing is a massive blue wave building for this election. Americans are deeply concerned about the direction of the country, especially in the spiraling upward of prices for everyday items, electricity, food.
It's not clear if the issue of affordable health care will be addressed in December, as Republican lawmakers debate the best path forward to bring costs down. Nathaniel Reed, Scripps News Group, Washington.
This is Today As It Happened. We'll be right back. Glad you're back with Today As It Happened. I'm Stephanie Liebergen here with your daily rundown of today's top stories.
The Navy is searching for 2 aircraft that went down in the South China Sea last month. One was an FA-18 fighter jet, the other an MH-60 helicopter, both of them containing advanced technology. The Navy wants to make sure China doesn't get its hands on it. Still no official cause of the crashes. President Trump telling reporters it might have been the fuel. All of the crews were rescued. Researchers from dozens of countries saying ultra-processed foods are becoming a major global health threat. A study published in The Lancet links junk foods to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and early death. Foods include products made with artificial ingredients like dyes, sweeteners, and preservatives. Experts say powerful corporations are driving consumption through aggressive marketing and lobbying. They're calling for a coordinated global response to regulate the products. An about face on, of all things, swastikas and nooses. Well, first there was a Washington Post story that said the Coast Guard was about to allow them to be displayed on Coast Guard vessels. Then, that about face. Scripps News national correspondent Alex Miller has been following the rapidly changing developments on this. And Alex, what exactly happened here?
Well, it depends who you ask. According to the Coast Guard, they say this isn't an about face, that this is just false information. But the Washington Post putting out an article yesterday saying that the Coast Guard had essentially eliminated the idea that displaying a swastika or a noose or other hateful materials would be considered as such. And they put out 2 different documents to show you the evolution in the language that the Coast Guard had put forward. So let me show you first the 2023 language that they had put out initially. That one says specifically that it would constitute a potential hate incident if somebody displayed a noose, a swastika, supremacist symbols, Confederate symbols or flags, or anti-Semitic symbols. Now, fast forward to November 2025, where we are right now, and according to the Washington Post, they put out different language. Now they call it potentially divisive symbols, and they talk about the exact same ideas, but now they're calling them potentially divisive instead of a potential hate incident. Little language shift, but it really could have meant very different things in terms of disciplinary actions. Now you'll notice here that the Confederate flag is still banned regardless of this language. The display of it is only allowed in for educational purposes. But if you remember, obviously, the swastika, it's a symbol of white supremacy. It has been a symbol of the murder of millions of Jews, and it's also a symbol of the military that the United States fought against in World War II. Nooses, a symbol of lynching Black Americans. So this is obviously something that sparked a lot of concern amongst people in Washington and really around the country.
Alex, how is the Coast Guard, though, responding to this?
Well, some of the messaging has been almost sarcastic, some of the social media posts that we've seen from the spokesperson essentially calling this fake news. But Congresswoman Lauren Underwood said that she spoke directly to the admiral about this and that he said he was going to take care of it. So a little bit of dueling ideologies here on this one. Now, they put out new information overnight, kind of rectifying the situation, but the Coast Guard's essential message has been that they did not really change the language too much. I want to read you what they said specifically. They say the Coast Guard does not tolerate the display of divisive or hate symbols and flags, including those identified with oppression or hatred. These symbols reflect hateful and prohibited conduct that undermines unit cohesion. They went on to talk about these symbols specifically, same ones that we've seen in this other language, but here they are reiterating that they say that this is not permitted. Now, this is the new policy, even though they're still saying that they are doubling down on the fact that it's always been forbidden, but it just kind of enhances the discussion that we have been having really for the last year or so. The Coast Guard is part of the Department of Homeland Security, not the Department of Defense like the other branches of government. But we've seen the Secretary for the Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth, talk about the DEI issue. We've seen now this admiral who was put into place after Trump was inaugurated, the woman who was in charge just before that. She was the first female service chief. She was fired on day one, and according to Fox News, in part because of her work on DEI initiatives. She still had 2 years left on her terms. But again, the Coast Guard has said that they take this very seriously and that they are making sure that hate symbols are not allowed on their ships.
Scripps News national correspondent Alex Miller live for us in New York City today. Alex, as always, thank you very much.
Up next on Today As It Happened.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yes.
It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind. Well, thank you very much. We've just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well.
Welcome back to Today As It Happened, Scripps News debrief of our top stories of the day. Let's jump right back in.
I want to take you live on the scene right now to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That highly anticipated meeting between President Trump and the newly elected mayor of New York City, Zohran Mandami, is now taking place. Let's go there live.
We're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Please.
I appreciated the meeting with the president, and as he said, it was a productive meeting focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers, the 8.5 million people who call our city their home, who are struggling to afford life in the most expensive city in the United States of America. We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the president. I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New Yorkers.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
President Trump, Stephen Nelson from the New York Post. I've got a question for you and then also one for the Mayor-elect.
Sure.
For you, you referred to Mr. Mamdani as a communist. Can you describe why you feel that way? And also, will you do anything to stop him from arresting Prime Minister Netanyahu if he visits New York?
Well, we didn't discuss your second part of the question. And on your first part, I mean, he's got views that are a little out there, but who knows? I mean, we're going to see what works, or he's going to change also. We all change. I changed a lot. From when I first came to office. It's now quite a while ago. It's quite a while. My first term was great. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We're doing even better now. We're doing much better now than we did even the first term. And I can tell you some of my views have changed. And we had discussions on some things. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but that I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually. And some very liberal people he won't surprise them because they already like him.
And Mr. Mamdani, It sounds like you had a productive discussion, but just days ago you referred to President Trump as a despot who betrayed the country. You said you would be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the President is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together. Yes, please.
Mr. President, from MTV Lebanon.
Good.
I would like to ask you a question about the Middle East regarding
Sure.
you said that Hezbollah in Lebanon is not in a good position, and Lebanon now is the final unresolved after Gaza and Syria. Given your assessment, like what do you say for the Lebanese today? It's the independent state in Lebanon, and what is your next move to push toward disarmament?
Sure. Well, we are pushing for total disarmament of Hamas and, frankly, everybody else. And we actually have peace in the Middle East. As you know, the King of Saudi Arabia just left yesterday. We had some great meetings, and he's made a contribution toward the United States of more than $1 trillion. We have now over $20 trillion coming in. No country has ever had anything like that, not even close. If you go to 2 trillion or 1 trillion, it's a lot. We have 20 or 21 trillion dollars. I think that Hezbollah has been a problem in Lebanon, big problem. We're working with Lebanon. We're working with everybody in the Middle East. That's another thing I think we have in common. We want to see peace in the Middle East, and we actually have now, for the first time, peace in the Middle East after 3,000 years. And now we're going to refine it, and I think you're going to see some very positive things happen.
Mr. President,
Yeah, please.
you threatened to send federal troops to New York City. You both have differences when it comes to ICE agents in New York City. Mr. Mamdani, you called ICE a rogue government entity. I wonder how you reconcile your differences on both of those issues.
Well, I think we're going to work them out, and I think that if we have known murderers and known drug dealers and some very bad people, we want to get them out. And the mayor wants to have peace. We discussed this at great length, actually, maybe more than anything else. He wants to have a safe New York. Ultimately, a safe New York is going to be a great New York. If it's not safe, no matter how well we do with pricing and with anything else, we can talk about anything you want. If you don't have safe streets, it's not going to be a success. So we're going to work together. We're going to make sure that if there are horrible people there, we want to get them out. I think he wants to get them out, maybe more than I do. So we'll work together. We discussed it at great length. Yes, please.
Yeah, 2 questions, if I may. One for you, Mr. President, from BBC in a second. But first of all, for the Mayor-elect. You're both from different parts of the political spectrum. You're both populists, though, and I just wondered to what extent with the President's campaign style, his techniques, his social media use inspired any part of your campaign?
Well, I actually told the President that, so much of the focus of our campaign has been on the cost of living crisis. And when we asked those New Yorkers who had voted for the President, when we saw an increase in his numbers in New York City, that came back to the same issue: cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And they spoke about the cost of groceries, the cost of rent, the cost of Con Ed, the cost of childcare. And too often, politicians are looking to lecture to New Yorkers what they should care about, as opposed to listen. And when we spoke to those voters who voted for President Trump, we heard them speak about cost of living. We focus on that same cost of living, and that's where I am really looking forward to delivering for New Yorkers in partnership with the President on the affordability agenda.
And I think we have to work a little bit. We talked about Con Edison. We have to work a little bit on getting the prices, because, we've gotten fuel prices way down.
I want to ask the Mayor-elect about a House resolution just passed overwhelmingly to condemn socialism, including with 86 Democrats, all of House Dem leadership, and the Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, despite his endorsement of you. What's your reaction to that?
I have to be honest with you, I focused very little on resolutions. Frankly, I've been focusing.
Condemn socialism.
I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand. I can tell you I am someone who is a democratic socialist. I've been very open about that. And I know there might be differences about ideology, but the place of agreement is the work that needs to be done to make New York City affordable. That's what I look forward to.
And I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yes.
It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
Mr. President, I wanted to ask you also about this Ukraine plan.
Yeah.
President Zelensky said today that his country would risk either giving up a partner or giving up its dignity. There's been criticism that this deal...
You mean he doesn't like it?
It's unclear. He was sort of
Well,
tenuous.
he'll have to like it, and if he doesn't like it, then, they should just keep fighting, I guess,
The suggestion that he made, though, was that if he doesn't accept it, that the U.S. would pull back its support for Ukraine. Is that
Well, at some
accurate?
point, he's going to have to accept something. He hasn't accepted. You remember right in the Oval Office not so long ago, I said, you don't have the cards. Don't forget, I inherited this war. This war never would have happened. I inherited this war. And I thought he should have made a deal a year ago, 2 years ago. The ultimate deal would have been if it never started. That would have been the good deal. That could have been done, too, if you had the right president, but you didn't have the right president.
Mr. President, cost of living is something that you and Mr. Mamdani seem to agree on.
Right.
Democrats have run New York City for a long time, Mr. Mamdani. Do you see Democrat policy specifically as being a problem? And I'd like that to be a question that both of you could answer in New York City.
Look, I think that there are many things in our city where we have to own the responsibility of it, things that existed long before the president was the president. And those are also part of the message of our campaign, was to take on a broken politics of the past. And I ran against a number of candidates who represented different versions of that past. And what we found time and again is that working people were left behind in the politics of our city. And what we're looking to do is put those people right back at the heart of our politics so that we don't have a situation where we're in the wealthiest city in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 5 can't even afford $2.90 for a Metro card.
Mr. President, we had some...
This meeting can best be described as civil. Donald Trump, by the way, not referring to Mamdani as a communist. Donald Trump, by the way, saying at one point in time, you could call me a fascist, when one of the reporters asked whether or not that was the way that Mamdani would describe Trump. Trump telling the reporter he's been called worse, even saying that he thinks New York's new mayor will surprise a lot of conservatives.
You're watching Today As It Happened. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Today As It Happened. I'm Stephanie Liebergan. Let's jump right back into our rundown of today's top stories.
The Supreme Court is meeting in private to discuss one of the most controversial issues yet. That issue, President Trump's birthright citizenship order. The order declares that children born to parents who are in this country illegally are not American citizens. Lower courts have been united in their dissent, striking down the citizenship restrictions. The justices could decide as soon as Monday whether they will hear Trump's appeal. Those restrictions have not taken effect anywhere in the United States. A Florida sheriff's deputy shot and killed Friday attempting to serve an eviction notice. Deputy Terry Mashkow is a 25-year veteran. She died in that shooting near Vero Beach. Another deputy and a locksmith were also shot. The shooter was the son of a woman who was evicting him from her home. He opened fire when the officers entered the house. We're now on that high-stakes meeting between two of the most powerful men in the world, the mayor-elect of New York City and the president of the United States. It's been described as the Sharks and the Jets, or the outsiders. In the end, though, it looked like two guys from Queens who actually might want to get something done for New York City. Our White House correspondent Haley Bull is on the North Lawn right now. And Haley, your thoughts on the meeting as you watched it take place?
Del, certainly a significant meeting, one in which President Donald Trump and Mayor-elect Mandani appeared to show a display of commonality, marking a sharp turn from the rhetoric that we saw play out during the campaign, the New York mayoral campaign. The president saying he will help Mamdani, seeming to like what he heard in his meeting with him, noting that he was surprised, saying Mamdani is different and he thinks conservatives will be surprised too. Where they seemed to find a path of overlap was on the issue of affordability. It is one Mamdani really campaigned on, and one that this White House has been heavily focused on amid Americans' continued economic concerns. And that is significant, as the two leaders said that they discussed things like bringing prices down, housing, rent, as well as crime, focusing on the end results they want to see rather than the differences in the paths to get there, as certainly these two have shared ideological differences up to this point. But Dell, it really stood out that the president appeared to give Mamdani a vote of confidence, noting he thinks Mamdani can do things that will be great. And this is really a stark difference from what we have heard leading up to today. President Trump has called Mamdani a communist leading up to this. He has threatened to withhold funding from New York over this, warned of potential disaster under Mamdani leadership. As Mamdani said in his acceptance speech to President Trump, quote, turn the volume up. But in the hours ahead of this meeting, Del, we did see the president appear to soften his tone in that, particularly in a Fox News radio interview today, where he insinuated they both said some hard things. And so that is a significant point in this. But where they didn't focus on in this was sidestepping some issues where we know there are major differences. For instance, when it comes to Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza, notably. But still, the president appearing to put cold water on the idea that he would cut funding, but still reminding folks that his comments were subject, he said in the past, to what policies were set. So, Del, this is a very interesting meeting, one that has been highly anticipated, and certainly one that the president himself seems surprised by.
Haley, you've been in that room. The president has been harder on members of the press than he was on a man that he once described as a communist. There was a reporter, I don't know which outlet he was from, but he said, you've described President Trump as a fascist. Do you still believe that President Trump is a fascist? He started to answer the question politically. President Trump then said, oh, just call me a fascist. I've been called worse. Your thoughts on the fact that this was a meeting that was civil?
Yeah, Del, this was a meeting where the two focused on where they appeared to find common ground, it seems, and not focuses on the differences in their philosophies, in their viewpoints, in their politics. It's certainly notable that the president kind of gave Mamdani a pass there, a moment of relief from answering a very pointed question on significant criticism Mamdani had of the president, particularly on a word that the president has heavily criticized Democrats for using in the past. We have seen this high-stakes moment so many times in the Oval Office when it comes to meetings between President Trump and other world leaders, even state leaders. So certainly to see two people who have traded such sharp jabs on the political side of things on the campaign trail appear to show some area where they could find common ground moving forward in this, where they switched their tones significantly, is very notable.
Thank you for joining us on Today As It Happened. I'm Stephanie Liebergan. Have a great Friday night and an excellent weekend.